Hi everyone, my name is Landry, and today I'm going to talk about President Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the President of Mexico. I'm going to largely look at how her leadership reflects core key concepts such as values, ethics, environment, leadership style, trust, impact in international affairs. I'm mostly aimed to evaluate how she leads within a global context and global environment and how that leadership has created a long-term impact already. Like I said, I'm going to go over a little bit of her background, her work in the public sector, her values, ethics, leadership style, how she maintains trust in her country, the impact that she's been able to have, even though she is just at the beginning of her term, and overall a summary. So, President Sheinbaum is a unique leader because she brings a scientific and analytical background into political leadership, which isn't something that we often see. Her experience in energy and climate research shapes how she approaches decision making, prioritizing data, long term outcomes, and structured problem solving. This foundation is important when evaluating her leadership because it influences how she navigates complex international issues, particularly in energy and environmental policy. The leadership environment that President Sheinbaum operates in is defined by complexity and competing priorities. Leadership or leaders in this sector are often choosing between two legitimate goods rather than clear right or wrong decisions. For example, Mexico's energy policy creates tension between expanding renewable energy and maintaining reliance on state controlled oil to support economic stability. President Sheinbaum has handled this by taking a gradual but balanced approach, supporting sustainability while maintaining existing systems to avoid economic disruption. President Sheinbaum's leadership reflects a strong emphasis on competence, integrity, and composure. Her scientific background reinforces a belief in data driven decision making, which aligns with competence. And this is important because in complex environments, credibility is often tied to expertise. Integrity is demonstrated through consistency between her stated priorities and her policy approach. Composure is also critical as leaders in the sector must remain calm and disciplined under pressure rather than reacting emotionally. Together, these values create a leadership approach grounded in structure, discipline, and also long term thinking. Ethics in the sector are, like I said, not defined by right or wrong decisions, but instead how leaders operate and navigate these competing responsibilities. President Sheinbaum operates in a space where she must balance national priorities, such as economic stability and public safety, with broader ethical expectations like human rights, global responsibility. And then, for example, in energy policy, she supports sustainability while continuing investment in fossil fuels to maintain economic stability. And then in addressing the cartels in Mexico, cartel related violence, she's largely continued the previous administration's strategy of focusing on prevention rather than aggressive confrontation. She has handled these challenges by prioritizing long term stability over immediate results. But this reflects the reality of the warring norms that we've talked about in this course, where each decision involves trade offs. But over time, repeated compromise can risk ethical drift if not intentionally managed. Her leadership shows that ethics in this sector require discipline and constant alignment with core values. President Sheinbaum's leadership style is analytical and strategic rather than reactive. She relies on structured decision making and controlled communication, which helps manage perception in the high pressure environment that she's in. For example, during her time leading Mexico City, she implemented data driven policies to improve transportation and reduce emissions. She handled these challenges by relying on evidence rather than short term political pressure. Her ability to combine technical expertise with emotional discipline allows her to navigate these complex leadership challenges to the best of her ability. Trust in the sector is built through consistency and also credibility over time. President Sheinbaum's technical expertise has strengthened her credibility, particularly in areas like climate and energy policy. However, trust is also tested as well. For example, tensions between her sustainability goals and continued fossil fuel investment can create skepticism. She's managed or addressed this by maintaining consistent messaging around global gradual transition, and national priorities. This demonstrates that trust is not necessarily about perfect alignment, but about maintaining consistency and reliability in decision making. The impact that she's been able to make in this sector comes from influencing policy, shaping relationships, and positioning Mexico within a global system. President Sheinbaum's impact is seen in how she balances domestic priorities with international expectations, as her approach influences how Mexico participates and shows up in global conversations, while also maintaining national stability. This demonstrates that impact is not immediate, but built through consistent strategic decisions over time. President Scheinbaum's leadership demonstrates how values, ethics, and strategic thinking shape outcomes in international affairs, and how she's able to navigate competing priorities while also maintaining integrity. Her approach highlights that impact is not created through single decisions, but through consistent, disciplined leadership over time. In summary, I went over a little bit of her background, how she works in the public sector, her values, the ethics, the leadership style that we've been able to identify, how she maintains trust, the impact that she's been able to have so far, and the summary. These are my sources. Thank you so much.